Hi, good afternoon. Today we're going to talk about the IEmoSoft.TestExecutioner. So if you look here, I've got this framework, IEmoSoft.TestExecutioner Recorder, and it sits on top of Selenium and Excel, this API, and Windows Graphics. On top of the test executioner is a testing context. So let's say that you're a tester. Let's say that you're a consultant, and you travel around and you work for Medtronic, General Dynamics, and General Electric. And no matter where you go, you execute these tests. And as a test executioner, as a consultant, as a human being, you go and you create a report that looks a lot like this. And we notice we got a test number, test 4000, it failed. The test title, newly created hospital, displays in hospital list. It's priority. So you got this header section up here. And then you've got a description. Given create new hospital is clicked, when a new hospital record is created, then it should be displayed on the hospital list. So you're using the given, when, then of the testing framework. Then you're going down here and you're describing your steps. So you got navigate to the login screen. You should see the login screen. You got the status of each step. So you can go through and actually say what steps have passed and what steps have failed. And you actually have images. So we see here that step number 6, verify page contains your data has been saved, failed. Well, what did that screen look like before this failure? So we can click on this image and we say, okay, well, here's what the screen looked like before the test failed, and then what did the image look like at the actual failure? It says unable to find your data has been saved on this current page. So it took the text from the test case and put it right under the image. And we look here, and yes, indeed, I do not see your data has been saved on this page at all. So this is what you would do as a test executioner going from job to job. Again, it doesn't matter what the context is. This is the report. You're going to create a report in this format with these images of every screen capture before and after a particular operation and indicate whether the test is passed or not. So we're going to talk about an automated test framework that I created that does all of this. It runs the test. It takes screen captures before and after, and it has a capability if you want it to take screen captures before and after, and it records the test steps every step of the way. And again, it's based off of this. This is kind of a high-level overview of how this system works. So here's the scenario. You work for a hospital. You're developing a system for the hospital, and you need to record all of the steps and tests, not just steps of tests that fail, but of actual steps that pass as well. Every test has to create a report like the one that we just saw. And so I'm going to go in here. I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to bring up the folder where these items are going to get saved. Excuse me. And I'm going to delete all the contents. I'm going to delete all the contents of this folder. This is the folder where our artifacts are going to get saved. So I'm going to delete those. And we're going to come back here and we're going to actually look at a context. So I created a site, a subject site, in order to provide this demo. If we go to HTTP localhost, we see that I've got this login. Now there's 3 tests that I'm going to demonstrate. One is if I log in like that, emo, if I put in an invalid password, if I put invalid in any string here, try to log in, it's going to say invalid username password. So I want to test that. That's one test. The next test I want to run is if I put in any other password, it's going to take me to the hospital list. So the very first page I should see here is my list of hospitals. And as you can see, this is what I see. The next thing I want to do is I want to create a new hospital. And so I'm going to come in here and say Emo Children's. And when I save this, I should see some indication that my data has been saved. Your data has been saved. So in addition to verifying that your data has been saved, displays on this page, I should also see this new hospital in the list of hospitals. So I'm going to go back and click, and indeed the hospital did show up. So the data was saved. I just didn't get that nice visual indicator when I actually created the hospital. So this is the test system. This is the context. It's testing this hospital, this patient management system is the context. So let's do a very quick code review, and then we're going to run the tests, and we'll see how this was all put together. So I've created a test project. Here we go, management tests. And I created this thing called a patient management system test context. And this class here has a reference to my IEmoSoft.TestExecutioner. So it has a reference to this text execution. It's private. So all the calls that it makes, all the calls that get made into this context, pass those steps into my test executioner. So it has high-level methods like log into the patient management system site. So this particular context knows exactly what is the URL to log into that specific site. So we come in here, we say test recorder, navigate to that specific site, and we should see the login page. Assert that the page contains login. Go ahead and log in. Set the text on each element. Then click that login button. And then the instruction in the test case is to enter a username and password, click login. You should be taken to a list of hospitals. True. This true indicates go ahead and snap the screenshots before and after. So this is a high-level method on our testing context. Create a new hospital. So we pass in, here are the parameters that we want to pass in to create this hospital. So we navigate to the hospital list. Again, these are high-level methods on our testing context for this specific system. If we were testing another system for, say, General Dynamics, we'd have high-level methods on that context. It would use the same test recorder, the test executioner, to log those steps and take those screen prints and generate that report. Then we get into the actual tests themselves. So the tests themselves, I have a test here called valid user logs into the patient management system. So the test description is given a valid username and password when I log into the system, blah, blah, blah. The test name, patient management system, valid user login test 1000. I go ahead and create my testing context, and I say go ahead and log into the system. I pass in valid values, and then I assert that I am on the hospital list page. That concludes that test. If we look down here at this create a new hospital, this was an interesting feature that I made as part of the test executioner. This idea that if this test step fails, I want you to go ahead and note it in the report that the test failed, but I don't want you to fail the whole test because there's other things that you can still verify. Sometimes if a test step fails, that's it. Test done. Stop. Just stop what you're doing. Just say the test failed. Other times you can say, okay, let's note that test step failed, which means the whole test is going to fail. But let's keep going through and see if there's any other steps that fail. So we don't have to keep running this test over and over just to find out, oh, we got to another step and that failed. Oh, we got to another step. Let's just find out all the steps that are failing right now, if we can, if it makes sense. And so we see here in this particular test, I'm saying my testing context, create a new hospital, assert that the page contains your data has been saved. And then I pass in this true. This true is a parameter that says keep going. Even if this fails, don't throw the error. Don't end the test. Just keep going. The test is going to fail, but don't fail it right now, is what this particular method means. Now, you can use this framework in any of the .NET testing frameworks. You can use it in NUnit, MS Test, which is what I'm using here. I'm using MS Test. You can use it in NSpec, SpecFlow. I highly recommend using it in SpecFlow. I'm a big fan of SpecFlow. And I chose to do this in MS Test because that's every .NET developer seems to know MS Test and NUnit. That's why I chose MS Test. Let's go ahead and run these tests. Again, I just want to show you, here's my folder, Patient Management System Test Results. There's nothing there. Nothing up my sleeve. There's nothing in this folder. We're going to go ahead. We're going to run these tests. Run them all right now. And we're actually seeing Selenium execute. And then underneath, in between there, and that shim is my test executioner sitting on top. So here we're testing that we got to the hospital page, hospital list, with a valid username and password. And as you can see, we did. And so that test T1000 is about to be marked as passed. And now we're going to go to our next test. This is the invalid username and password test. That test passed as well. Now this last test, I actually designed for it to fail. And we see the test 4000 failed. If we click on test, we'll see an error message in the actual result. Your data has been saved. Actual result, unable to find your data has been saved on current page. If we go look in our folder now, we should see some artifacts. And here we have all of our artifacts. If we take a look at this first one, we see that that test passed, and here are all the images. So we can say, here's what the page looked like before we logged in. Here's what the page looked like when we provided our credentials. So we can actually see the credentials we provided, and here is what the screen looked like after we logged in. If we go look again at that test that failed, we see here's what the screen looked like before the test failed. Here's what the screen looked like at the time of failure, and again the message, we write that right onto the screen capture. And then we can go down and we can see that these other tests, how they passed. So here we see that data did show up on the hospital list. So again, this is an example of the IEmoSoft.TestExecutioner framework. And if your team is doing anything with testing and you'd like some consulting, some advice on how to get a test automation team up and running, as you can see, there's a little more to this than the normal manual testing. Some development background is kind of required. Please reach out to me, Mike Emo, memo@IEmoSoft.com. And please check out my blog at themikeemo.com. And thanks for watching.